Paul, Apple is fascinating in so many ways. What surprised me, perhaps most of all, is that in the most recent quarter, we saw 35 million iPhones sold at a time when it seems everybody who could be buying an iPhone is waiting for the new iPhone, the iPhone 6, and the bigger iPhone, which we expect to come in October. Were you surprised, too?
Yeah, I mean, I think the three numbers I was watching, I expected there would be some weakness in iPhone sales just because of this phenomenon you described that, in tech it's sort of traditional that people, once they know a new product's coming along, they kind of hold back a little bit and they say, why would I buy the last generation of the product when the new one's coming along so quickly?
Right.
And so, this number was, up, I think, 12%, something like that, and, which was a little bit better than I expected. And it seems as if it was driven in large part by sales in some of the emerging markets, in particular emerging markets for Apple, that is, but in China and elsewhere. And so, that sort of helps explain what went on. There was, I think, some freezing of sales here in North America, but it was more than made up for elsewhere.
What does that say about the quarter we're in right now? And more important, what does it say about sales to come when the new products finally hit the market?
Well, it looks like, this is kind of a coiled spring, that there's an awful lot of sort of pent-up demand for the upgraded products. This is what we're talking about, these larger screen-sized iPhones coming in the fall, which is like, the worst-kept secret in the world at this point. I think that I think the bigger risk, and this is something that really didn't get talked about in the context of the iPad sales number last night, which was down something like 9%, is what's the impact of a larger iPhone going to be on the iPads? The iPad sales are already weak, right? They're already weak, and we haven't even launched the new product. Once you see a larger screen iPhone coming out, what's the impact on iPad mini sales going to be? I firmly believe it's going to have a dramatic impact on some of the smaller iPad sales because people don't want to carry both units, and with a smaller iPhone in their pocket, there's really no reason to lug around an iPad as well. So I think you're going to have a really dramatic change in the iPad market over the coming 2 quarters, and that's something to track closely given we're already seeing weakness in iPad sales, and it hasn't even shipped yet.
Well, to your point, Paul, we have seen iPhone sales continue to rise. I mean, the line, if you will, since the iPhone's introduction has been steadily rising, whereas iPad sales have plateaued. I guess what that makes me wonder is whether Tim Cook cares, so long as he's getting a sale, iPad mini or larger iPhone, does it matter? Or would he prefer the iPhone sale because it comes at a higher margin?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a margin story here. They're trying to hang on to these 37.5%, gross margin line items here. But at the same time, iPad is extremely strategic to the company in terms of selling into the enterprise. I mean, you saw the large deal they signed up with IBM in the quarter, which was really interesting, if only because, in the past these two were such, direct enemies on almost everything they did. And so that was sort of an interesting example of what Apple's trying to do to continue pushing that product into the market in the face of what I think is really sort of flagging demand for iPad. So I think he cares because he sees it as strategic in terms of, not losing their foothold in business and elsewhere where tablets have been fairly, increasingly important in replacing laptops in many places. But I really believe that you're going to see the weakness in iPads is just beginning.
Well, technology often makes for strange bedfellows, Paul.
Yeah.
IBM and Apple now partnering to penetrate the enterprise. What about Microsoft? We saw numbers from Microsoft yesterday as well. And, Microsoft is a transition story, but a transition story that seems to be working because all of a sudden they found success in the cloud.
Yeah, they have. I mean, to be fair, this is still an enterprise story as much as they want to drive it as, cloud first and mobile first and all the many other, things that are first that Satya Nadella, the company CEO, likes to talk about. But nevertheless, this is still really an enterprise story that's doing, I think, a fairly steady transition to sort of cloud services like Azure and 365, and others. And that's all great. But the thing that's really driving the story right now are surprisingly an awful lot of the legacy businesses, the businesses that have been around the company for a long time and involved them selling licensed products into large organizations. And the other thing that's helping them a lot is really some financial engineering. We've had some aggressive stock buybacks. We're having some cost cutting. These are things that can't go on forever, which isn't to dismiss their importance. They're incredibly important for the company. But by the same token, they've got the luxury of having an awful lot of dials to turn that are really helping their numbers right now.